Hi everyone, happy Sunday. It's Alysia here and I'm very excited to be with you today for our bi-weekly Sunday Investor Global Online Fireside Chat. We are broadcasting to you live from London and it's very exciting being here. We've been meeting with entrepreneurs and investors in one of the financial capitals of the world and the response to our community continues to be sensational. This week we're celebrating London Tech Week and there are lots and lots of exciting things on the go. London is definitely the place to be this week. The future of our Fireside Chat community is really exciting and soon I'll be able to share a lot of very exciting updates with you. So stay tuned, lots of exciting things await you. Once again, today we have an amazing session planned for you. We have a panel of brilliant investors joining us from across the globe, logging in to help you hone your fundraising skills in order to get the deal closed and get that money in the bank. As an entrepreneur, raising funding is often incredibly scary and very uncertain. With the help of our exceptionally helpful panelists, we are hoping to shed some light on the do's and don'ts of raising a successful round of funding. Now, I know you want to learn from the best, so let me go ahead and introduce you to our VIP guests before asking them to properly introduce themselves to you. So, who do we have joining us today? Welcome to Hong Kong, China-based Manesh Kaur, who's a globally connected entrepreneur, sales leader, digital media expert, and business builder. Welcome to London, UK-based Taz Hussain, who's a corporate finance expert, business builder, and consultant. Welcome to New Delhi, India-based Harpreet Singh, who's a technical strategist, global consultant, and entrepreneur. But welcome to Silicon Valley-based Kyle Kling, who's a Silicon Valley venture capitalist and director at MDI Ventures. And last but definitely not least, welcome to Bengaluru, India-based Dharmender Singh, who's a business builder, team builder, and global executive. Now, I'd love to ask our VIPs to introduce themselves to you, starting with Taz. Taz, please say hi to everyone quickly.
Hi, good afternoon or good morning, depending where you are in the world. My name's Taz Hussain. I'm based out of London and I'm in corporate finance. I'll tell you a little bit about myself a little bit later on.
Welcome, Taz. Very excited to have you join us. Dharmender, please say hi to everyone.
Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening for many of you. So I run a merger acquisition firm based in Bangalore. So currently I'm living in Bangalore and I run a company called Mergerware, and we are global M&A firm and help company to do merger acquisitions. Thank you.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. Kyle, please say hi to everyone from a very early California.
Hello, my name is Kyle. I represent MDI. MDI is a corporate venture capital fund of one of the largest conglomerates in Southeast Asia, Telcom. Thank you.
Thank you, Kyle. Manesh, please say hi from Hong Kong.
Hi everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. So I represent Global Sources, which is a NASDAQ-listed company with interests in China. I represent Chinese investors who are interested in all kinds of areas of investments. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Manesh. And Harpreet, please say hi to everyone.
Hi, everyone. This is Harpreet. I have around 17 years of background in healthcare segment, PhD in biomedical engineering. And as an entrepreneur working on the third product, last two products I have sold in the US and the Indian market, and currently working and representing INICU, which is working in terms of reducing child mortality across the world. Good to meet you all.
Welcome, Harpreet. Very excited to have you join us. Now, just a few quick things before we learn from the best. A few shout outs on the screen are contact details for our panelists. Please feel free to reach out to them. Keep sending your questions through to Inspire Me at Online Fireside Chat, and we'll do our very best to include them. We have briefed our experts that there are a lot of questions to get through today, so stay tuned. Just a reminder, we have community champions and ever-growing meetup groups in over 80 cities in 55 countries across the globe, including in North and South America, the UK, Europe, Africa, the Middle East, India, Australia, and last but not least, definitely Asia. If you'd like to meet up with your local chapters, or you'd like to start your own, feel free to reach out to us and put you in contact with our local community champion. On that note, thank you to all our champions from across the globe. You know this, but you are the heart and soul of our community, and we wouldn't be here without you. Over the next few months, we will doing our best to inspire and empower entrepreneurs in more than 100 countries. We know that together with all your help, we can make this happen. Thanks again to our VIP guests for sharing your knowledge so freely and generously. Thanks to our growing family of supporters and collaborators from the developing world who host sessions on a weekly basis for hundreds of entrepreneurs who don't have access to the necessary bandwidth or understanding of English to join our sessions on their own. Thank you to all the ambassadors, ministers, government ministries, UN offices, US Embassy corners, British Council offices, university campuses, schools, business incubators, Chamber of Commerce, community centers, community radio stations, and media for all your ongoing weekly hosting support and for raising awareness within your regions and communities. Thank you to everyone from our UN Women team for all your support as well. Once again, we're streaming across new live platforms today. On that note, we have some very exciting news, so stay tuned. If you'd like us to broadcast from a radio station within your community, make sure to reach out to us. We want to inspire and empower more and more entrepreneurs across the globe. Now, the moment you've all been waiting for, you want to learn from the best, and they're here to learn from. So how does this work for our VIPs? I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to pose a question to one of you. We'd love to hear your insights. The question is open to all our panelists. Please feel free to share your knowledge with us, and let's all have some fun. So starting with, let's make this one really fun. Kyle, given the fact that you're based in Silicon Valley, here goes. What are some of the most important things you look for when making an investment decision as far as it goes in terms of an entrepreneur?
Thank you for the question. One of the, and I'm, like I said, I apologize, I'm a little bit under the weather, but one of the most important things that investors look for in the US and I think globally is the most important aspect, especially early on, is the team. The team is very important, whether you're taking an idea to a product to, you know, a $1 million business, or are we taking a business from, you know, a $10 million company to a $1 billion company? Can we be confident in the team that has the capabilities, the networks, and the ability to execute, grow and create a great company? The second thing that we're looking for is product. As a CVC, we're very, in CVC meaning a corporate venture capital fund, we're very specific in what we're looking for. Telecom represents a wide variety of industries, whether it's finance, logistics, and so there's much more, but we actually have very specific things that we're looking for. Primarily as a corporation, we're trying to be aware of what are the companies that are going to disrupt our industries. We're trying to be very proactive and reactive. What is going to be the next Airbnb that's going to, if we're going to talking about what's replacement for the hotel industry, or what is going to be the next change in transportation, if we looked at how Uber affected the taxi industry. For us, we're just trying to make sure that we are aware and understanding of how products are changing, and that definitely revolves around how consumers change their habits and the products, and where does that product market fit. It also very much depends on the market that you're operating in as well. Sometimes what works in United States doesn't necessarily work in Southeast Asia. And then last but not least, we look at the market size. The market size is one of the most important aspects as an investor. If we are looking to invest in a particular technology company, we want to make sure that it can, for all investors, have a large exit at the end of the day.
Thank you, Kyle. You got us off to a fantastic start. Manesh, would you like to add anything? I know you'd have some very interesting insights to share here too.
Sure. So from all that Kyle added, I think the key thing that I look for, especially because most of our investors come from a manufacturing background, is some kind of a vertical integration strategy, in the sense that we're looking for projects or startups that have a manufacturing element in them. So the investor that comes in comes with an expertise in manufacturing or R&D or both. And once they're invested in that business, they can take the startup into the next stage by providing the sourcing support, providing the manufacturing support, and being a part owner of that. which does multiple folds of business advantage. One is that the sourcing, most of the startups, especially in the technology field and hardware related field, don't have expertise in sourcing. And when you're overseas sourcing, you always get into troubles with quality, with delivery, with the whole hassle of getting the product across. But if you have a partner who can deliver that, it makes a big difference. And the easiest way, especially from the Chinese side, is that if they are invested with their own hard-earned money, they're going to make sure your deliveries are on time. They're going to make sure that your quality is maintained, and they're going to make sure that they provide you the right R&D support. So from our perspective, we look for that kind of strategic match more than anything else.
Thanks, Manish. Some brilliant insights being shared today. Off to a fantastic start. Taz, I'm going to throw you in the deep end. I'm going to give you a double-edged question. So as far as entrepreneurs go, what can they do to, number one, really impress you from the start? And number two, turn you off investing in them?
So number one, impress me, and number two, turn me off.
In the same question. Let's
in
do
the
this,
same
Taz.
question. Okay. Number one, to impress me is to actually show a massively addressable market where they've identified a gap and showing us execution within that gap. So I think there's been a recent book by Peter Thiel where he talks about the 0 to 1 philosophy. And if an entrepreneur or a team can show me that, that will get me really interested, in terms of evidencing multiple things from opportunity in the market, product market fit, demand, scalability. It will show me absolutely everything there. But where they would put me off, it comes down to team and know-how and expertise and malleability. So what we look for, and I think Kyle's touched on it earlier on, team. So what would be a put-off is if they weren't willing to fill the gaps. They might have an amazing project, but if the team can't execute, the team can't deliver, the team aren't malleable, they can't take mentorship, they can't take coaching, they can't take guidance, they can't bring in gray hair, that would be a complete turn-off. Doesn't matter how amazing the opportunity is. It's about the team who are doing the execution. Because ultimately what it comes down to, the investment partner, whether it's private equity, venture capital, family office, is providing the capital and working on a board level, but not on an operational level. What we need at the same time is evidence that from an operational level, you can either do it or you have the capacity and the willingness to actually bring somebody on who is better than you, and you don't care about who gets the credit as long as the team wins and there's an exit.
Thank you, Taz. Fascinating insights. As I keep saying, Darminder, we have a question from you from our community, and it goes as follows: how long after meeting an entrepreneur do you know that you're intending to invest in them?
Yeah. So the basic, when I meet first time, so actually we keep meeting lots of entrepreneurs who come and present their ideas. The basic thing what we look at those ideas where the first thing is clarity of ideas. So like people are presenting 20, 30 slides, but they are not very clear on their idea, like whether they can scale it. Sometimes there is no clarity in the team, the expertise which they are going to bring, and how they are able to fill the gap. Now, if we find that the entrepreneur have all this, he knows what is the market size, he knows what the product is, he have the skill to deliver, then we look for maybe 5 to 6 months at the beginning, and then we do a follow-up call with them or meet them, invite them, and see how they are progressing. So we give quick feedback when we meet first time, and we ask plenty of questions, and then we try to make sure that we do couple of meetings in between when there is an interest. So it all depends on how they are progressing. If they progress very fast, then we even call for 2 to 3 months time gap. We call again and We see where they have achieved. Maybe they are running some pilot programs. Maybe they might be running some of the tests, right? Or they are evaluating still some customers. They are going and validating their ideas, meeting customers. So we try to make sure they do all the homework perfectly before they come to us second time. And that, so if you ask me the timeline, I think it's sometimes 5 months, 6 months. If it is the idea you have that they have already validated, we know that we are going to invest in that. So that is 6 months time, not more than that.
Thank you, Dharminder. Harpreet, do you have any thoughts you'd like to share in terms of what Dharminder was saying?
So yeah, I recently raised a seed round for my third product, which I'm working on, and I started talking to the investor community somewhere in last May of last month, the last year, and it depends. As Harvinder said, when people started looking at us, we had a great idea. We were trying to reduce the child mortality, which is a big problem across the world. We got some very immediate kind of interest from a few segments of investors, and by almost like October, I will say 4 or 5 months, we were having different term sheet offers. It also depends on the entrepreneur and the team, because once you start getting the offers from the community, from the investors, and from you start seeing after running the pilot program and also doing the some of the initial acquisitions of the customers, you also as an entrepreneur mature in terms of seeing different term sheets and trying to identify which direction you want to take the product. Like in our case, we got some very good advisors from the Indian market. So we had some of the top research institutes, mentors who came on board, and they said they will help us in putting the product together. And also were able to get people from US, specifically from Stanford, from UCSF, who were the great mentors. So in a way, we actually put down the initial investment discussion, and we went to specific family houses who were more aligned with our business idea. So I agree with what Dharminder said, 4 to 6 months. But again, it depends on the story to story, and it also depends on the maturity of the entrepreneur and his team. So it's a two-way street. So I think it's both investor and the entrepreneur playing the game and trying to understand how it fits and how it fits the product to the best.
Thank you, Harpreet, and you've touched on some critically important elements. I'm definitely coming back to you about them, so thank you. Kyle, a question for you. So I interact with a lot of the Y Combinator entrepreneurs, and one of the things I've noticed is that some of the strongest entrepreneurs looking for funding often get straight to the point. After pitching investors, they say, are you interested in investing there and then? And there's a cross-section of feedback. I would love to hear from you on behalf of our community. What are your thoughts in terms of entrepreneurs asking you straight up, upfront, are you interested, or should I go and talk to other investors?
I think it's for both Y Combinator and a lot of the other accelerators here in the Bay Area, for sure. All entrepreneurs are trained, especially for the limited amount of time that they have. Y Combinator tries to go through 100 companies in 2 days. Yes, it's important for that particular setting to say, here's what we do, here's how great we are, and this is why we're a fantastic team to do this, is the primary message. And to get investors interested is a very, very quick way to try to generate interest and really move. Y Combinator tries to move past investors that and those that are trying to more about learn information, and we try to get directly to the decision. Y Combinator does spend a lot of time picking its companies, training its companies through its program, and so they're very confident in the companies during demo day that they are probably the best companies for investors that are in that room. But I would say that the reality is investors want, especially if anyone is going to write you a check for any dollar amount, whether it's a personal investor or an institutional investor, the conversation normally lasts a little bit longer. We as investors tend to try to find as much information as possible, do our research, And the conversation is not a 15-second pitch. It's a conversation that, especially if there's interest between the investor and the founder, there's more of an engagement that actually happens beyond the 15-second pitch. And to kind of repeat that, the 15-second pitch is just to make sure that the founders and the investors are able to find each other quickly and then continue conversation, as opposed to having to find investors that are interested in learning about what they're doing, but not necessarily investing. And so we try to get past that quickly. So I hope that answers your question a little bit. Is it a good strategy? In a way, it is to understand whether that there's investor interest, but at the same time, it's not a great way to get a decision, if that makes sense.
Very much so. Thank you, Kyle. Taz, I know things to some extent are done a little differently here in London. We'd love to hear your thoughts in terms of this question I posed to Kyle.
Well, on this side of the pond, being quintessentially British, that question is not asked. It's not good etiquette to actually ask. There are other ways of asking and following up, but the culture here in the UK, I can certainly look back to the .com days. I was around back then looking at many deals that actually went through, working with both angel investment and institutional. Even back then, the market's very different here. So even though we have a amazing, technology sector coming out of London, predominantly out of Old Street and Tech City, culturally, that's an alien question. What tends to happen here is quick pitch. Most investors, in my experience, kind of give the nod. Yes, we're interested. Send me things through. And what we'll find in a very British culture is if somebody's interested, they will reply to your emails. They will take a call, but they will then take a moment to actually look at further research, further information within the sector. With regards to tech investments, it's a dynamic marketplace, and the investors in the UK, and I think we touched on it last week, Alysia, when we had this conversation, they're a lot more risk averse. They take their time, but if they are interested in something, they won't lead you up the garden path. They will tell you, but certainly in the UK, I wouldn't ask straight away. I'd give them a moment to actually digest the information, perhaps look at a deck or further information before asking them, are you interested?
Thank you, Taz. And this is why these conversations are so fascinating. Manish, I'm sure you've got some insights you'd love to share from China. How would this be addressed in China?
China is a very confusing market for most people, and China can be scary. The thing is, you can't be direct, but you still got to be direct. So I don't know how to explain it, but the best way to say it is it's like dating. You can't go on the first date and expect to get married. So you got to take time. You got to understand each other. And in China, the trust levels, especially those who have experience in the local market, their experiences have been bad. They have not done much of international transactions successfully. We all know that Chinese have done a lot of investments in all kinds of businesses over the last 3 to 4 years, but most of the businesses have not been successful. Only about 2% of the businesses have had any kind of success for them in terms of returns from international investments. So people are worried. They worry about who they're investing in, and as compared to the other markets, they don't have that much information about the other side. So you got to marinate them in your story. You got to spend more time with them. You need to get to know them, and they become friends with them before you expect them to invest, which is a little different from the US and UK. Here, there is a lot that depends on personal relationships and trust. In China, most of the businesses, whether it is investments or otherwise, are done because of relationships, and that is what you would have to invest your time and energy into is that building that relationship part with a Chinese investor before you ask that question.
Thank you, Manish. And I think Harpreet's got some insights he'd love to share from India. Please go ahead, Harpreet.
So yeah, I mean, India is being neighbor to China, bit similar. I will say people tend to make investments based on their relationships. I will also like to add people follow people. So if somebody in the past as a successful investor has invested in companies, and if you're doing an angel round and you're lucky to convince one person, there will be a group who would like to follow because of seeing the past record of the your lead investor. And I will say again, wearing the entrepreneur hat, it's always you have a local industry. So as an entrepreneur, you like to be direct and you go to the person, present the pitch, and you want to get his decision ASAP, like as soon as possible, because you need the money and you want to move forward with your plans. So the tendency for people like me who are building products and who want to move faster to scale the product, we like to be blunt and straight. But even in India, being a local, being connected in the industry, the investor will like to do a diligence. He will like to understand your company. He will like to understand your IP. He will like to understand what your numbers are, and they will always try to spend 6 months to see whether the numbers you are projecting are actually real. In a way, it's a good thing. As Manish said, it's like a dating. So you also, as an entrepreneur, should not commit too fast, because there's a good chance that your expectations and your plans are actually coming true, and there are better term sheets waiting for you, and there are better possibilities for you in terms of alignment. Because when you're desperate, you're looking for too many offers. And if you are lucky and your product actually has the right vision and your team is putting the right effort, that 6 months actually is good bonus for you to make that thing. So what I saw in India, it took me, ideally it should have taken me 6 months, but it took me almost an year. But by the end of the year, I had a much mature understanding of which direction I wanted to move. And it's always better as an entrepreneur to not only look at your country, because you might do a seed in your country, but you will do a series A, let's say in Germany or in US, or so it's always good before you commit for one round, start looking into the next round and what your progression is. So it's company and culture dependent, but as an entrepreneur, you should always look beyond the next round.
Thank you, Harpreet. Some awesome insights being shared there. Darminda, following on what Harpreet was saying, is selling to an investor the same thing as selling to your customers?
So if you see what Harpreet just now said is right. In India, basically what happens is, if you go for seed round, you have to make sure that you take at least 1 year time, because 6 months time, as Harpreet said, that it takes just to go and present your ideas, and by the time they start the validation process and they take the decision, because always it is a problem, who is the lead guy who is going to invest in your company. And if you don't get a guy who is maybe a known guy or who can bring some investor along, this is a very difficult game in India to get investment. Or the second way is, either if you have somebody, maybe I take a lead. I'm just giving example, being an investor, and I have some guy and I say, okay, I'm going to invest in such this company, and why don't you go and invest, because I have done the validation. So then people can join. And now this is the situation here currently. Any investment which is happening in India in seed round, at least there are only 3-4 guys who are investing, and if they are taking the lead, other investors are joining and just investing without going for pitch. They don't see the pitch, they don't read anything, they go and invest. But that is very minimal amount. But if you go look for global product, global market, where we want to acquire more big customers, then I have seen that many of the company I know who are in Bangalore or in India, especially, they started building or raising very maybe 100K or 200K, and they acquired lots of customer out of country. So they got Series A very quickly. So it's all varying. It's not, there is no fixed rule how to raise money, but I think it's all how all the approach, you just try and see which works better for you. Same for acquiring even customers in India. So suppose I am a startup company. Suppose I run a small company in India and I have to acquire some customers. Even our product is very good, but customer takes longer time because they always think that you are a very small company. They don't know whether your company will run for 1 year or not. So even acquiring customer is very difficult. It's not so easy. But once you acquire 1 or 2 customers very quickly, then getting rest of the customer is become very easy. So, in India, we apply both. And I think everything works. It all depends how we apply.
Thank you so much, Dharminder. And this next question is for Kyle, based on all these interesting insights that you've been sharing. Kyle, you're a CVC, and for some entrepreneurs, that's kind of intimidating when it comes to negotiating with you. Would you hold it against an entrepreneur if they had a professional negotiator assisting with the deal? All suggestions here are most appreciated.
Yes, I would. I don't think an entrepreneur needs a negotiator. I think that's one of the factors in investing in people, is being able to be confident that not only an entrepreneur knows how to talk about their product themselves, sell themselves, and sell their company, but at the same time have a negotiation, have a conversation with the CVC. I don't think, and CVCs are not much different than any other institutional investor or angel investor. We come to the table almost the exact same way as everybody else. Is yes, we have capital that we'd like to invest in. What we'd like to provide is value for the company, and the value that a CVC tries to offer is more of a strategic fit. And that conversation is, how do we become a customer of yours? How do we become a partner of yours? How do we become a reseller for a new region? And so that really just translates to, how do we help you make more money, or how do we help you operate in a better way? And so it shouldn't be an intimidating conversation. It should, and no, I don't think that a negotiator should be, or a third party should be involved in that conversation with any institutional investor.
Thank you, Carl. Great insights. Manish, as far as a Chinese perspective goes, in terms of what Carl was saying, any insights you'd like to share?
See, in China, if you're trying to raise capital in China, there'll be hundreds of investors that you can find. My advice to everybody is to look for the strategic fit with your business. Don't jump into bed with the first person you find. You want to find something that is going to benefit you in some way, either vertically integrated, horizontally integrated, something that will actually add value to your startup. You want an investor that will bring not just the money, but something more than the money. And if you are able to find such a partner, that is your ideal fit. Because like I said, in China, investors are not the difficult part. It's finding the right investor. There's too much money, especially too much money wanting to get out of China. And many of them would like to invest into your business just because they want to park the capital outside China, and you don't want that capital.
Thank you, Manish. And this next question is for Taz, following on from what you and Carl were saying. Taz, you've had a very interesting journey as far as being an entrepreneur goes, and now as an investor and deal maker. You've had mentors, you've had advisors. How much of a role have they played during the fundraising process for you, as well as entrepreneurs you've worked with?
I wish 20 years ago I was more open to mentorship and open to advisors. I was a young guy in my 20s, trying to build an empire like every other entrepreneur out there, setting the world on fire. The world has changed quite a lot in the last 20 years, where we are more open and more susceptible to taking mentorship and coaching in place. Back then, there weren't that many people willing to help. The typical advisors were your bankers, your accountants, your lawyers, and to be honest, they're specialists in their own field, but they can't give you that gray hair expertise. They can't give you the what not to do. Having having a mentor is amazing. I even in this day and age where we've got a regulated firm, I have a mentor, somebody who's vastly more experienced within the corporate finance world, who's run banks and institutions in the past, who gives me amazing guidance. And it's really the what not to do. It's not about putting the fire out on the entrepreneur. It's about guiding them and making them make decisions that will impact the future, especially with reference to fundraising. You've got to think 2 rounds ahead. If you're scaling a business, certain decisions that may look great today may not look so great in 36 months, in 60 months, when you've had 2 more fundraisers, when your company has gone from 50 men to 100 men, and you're working rather than on 1 continent, then 3 continents. And that's the expertise that mentors bring in, because they've previously run companies that have scaled, that have grown. So, yeah, it's a fascinating world. I myself offer mentoring, and I did mentoring through one of the top 5 accountancy firms over the last couple of years. And I found, FTSE 100 companies, I found mid-market companies and scalable startups who are doing really well, very open to the input that was coming from me, or people like me, groups of people like me. Typically what tends to happen to an investor is you're blindsided by your marketplace, your beliefs, your data, and the drive and determination to make it happen. You're too close. You're almost blind to the obvious. So a mentor is a sounding board, and it's the best place, because overall it will help you with capital preservation. It will also help you with scaling, and if you are raising equity or debt, it will ensure that you don't give things away too cheap.
Thank you, Taz. Some fantastic insights. As I keep saying, Harpreet, have mentors and advisors helped you in terms of your fundraising and ultimately clenching the deal?
So it depends on, as mentioned, advisors plays very important role. So I was fortunate in my journey that being a PhD in biomedical engineer, one set of investors are domain experts who bring a lot of medical domain understanding of the segment we are working, and who are the right key opinion leaders who should be using our system, or who should be our pilot customers, to create a worldwide appeal as a global product. So that's from a domain perspective. The second set of mentors are your business mentors, people who are on your board, who are your investors, who put the money in, and they have the network and the connect, who can introduce you, in my case, like big hospitals or big medical device companies, to get you in the foot inside the door, so that you can present the product and create synergies that because those hospitals are big hospitals, they don't want to work with a smaller organization. They have very high requirements from governance side. As a startup, you need some support to get inside those units. So those are your business mentors in terms of getting you in. And I will say third are your industry friends. When you are in the field and you're trying to sell, and you realize that you are not, you can't be everything. You can't be the best domain guy, you can't be the best technologist, and you can't be the best sales guy. So depending on which skill set is your gap, you make friends who are better sellers than you, who are better technical people than you, or who are better business people than you. And then you also bring them as advisors, because you are looking up to some people, and you are looking eye to eye to some people to understand, like, these are my gaps. You have done it in the past, and I need your support to grow my business. Again, I always felt getting mentors is one part of the challenge, but being able to absorb from the mentors and delivering to their expectation. I think it was very clearly said in the previous statement that as a 20-year-old, it's very hard to kind of have the brain and the wisdom to listen, because you have so much hunger, you have so much energy, and you feel like you can put the world on fire. So fortunately, being in the third product and gone through ups and downs, it's about you understand that bringing an investor is solving 20% of the problem. 50% of the problem is once you listen to him and you take his mentorship and converts that into a real thing. And then the remaining 50% is to keep him on board, because he is a successful person in his life and he moves fast. So people of this stature will like to also be associated with successful entrepreneurs and successful companies. So bringing them on board and then staying with them so that you don't go back and say, oh, this was not of any use, because sometimes the onus is on you to leverage and kind of make the right utilization of the mentor. And sometimes
Thank you, Harpreet. Unfortunately, we're running out of time. We've just got quite a few questions to get through, but thank you so much. We're going to come back to you. Kyle, following on from what Harpreet was saying, with your investor hat on, once you've made your investment decision, is there anything that can intervene in the decision and make you change your mind?
Are you referring to after investor had committed to the round? What would change his mind to
exactly? Exactly. Please be 100% honest.
I would say that rarely happens. If it did, if you're an investor and you're known for pulling out of a deal after commitment, it's a very bad sign, and people try to avoid it. Sometimes there's different cases when entrepreneurs, through due diligence process, we might find that there has, if anyone has lied about a lot of the information that is presented, that could be a reason. I haven't had that happen to me or those that I know. I think, there's a lot of work that goes into making an investment decision. And so to get to that final yes is everyone's very, very confident in that decision. And so I don't think that would happen, but I'm pretty sure it does. And the only case that I would think of is the case that there's something that comes out of the due diligence process that didn't align with what actually is true.
Thank you, Carl. Dharminder, we'd love to hear your perspective in terms of what Carl was saying.
Yeah, so I think as Carl said that, once we made the decision, I think going back is very hard. I think it never happens. And what you can do maximum, we cannot reinvest again, next time. But I think you cannot take the investment back once we have taken the decision. So that's why what we have, because this is not one individual decision, because there is a group of people, there could be investment committee who are taking the final call, right? So in that scenario, I think it is not good even. I've not seen any case where we have, after investment, we are regretting why we invested, because when we believe the idea and we invest, so I think we have to trust in ourselves first, in the ability to evaluate the company, making sure that we make the right decisions, because I think that are critical for any investment. So I think maybe we can spend more time before we decide to invest, but I think when you invest, you cannot go back. Better believe in the vision of the entrepreneurs and push them to go to the next level.
Thank you, Dharminder. We would love to hear a British perspective. Taz, have you ever heard of this happen? Your thoughts?
In short, no. The due diligence process, I think, globally is what will open up the can of worms, or it will seal a deal. Essentially, lawyers and everybody have a look at the deal on a microscopic level. Once the investment decision's made, it's really about term sheets and whether it's acceptable to either party. And once that's gone through, it's the point of no return. Because imagine the reputational damage to the institution or the investor who's making n number of investments. Just imagine that. So I can't recall hearing of anything. I know certain deals have gone through when well, they failed post initial of the term sheet and the due diligence has started. But that's just making sure everything is, factual and the veracity of the statements are validated through lawyers and legal channels. So what I would say to entrepreneurs raising capital is this. The market is a very small place wherever you are in the globe. If you're in the business of taking venture money and growing your business, be open and honest about all the things, even the bad things. Put it in your due diligence. Be transparent with the investors, because they will eventually find out, and that's how deals go bad. But if you're honest and straightforward and something happened because of matters that were beyond your control, for example, a collapse of a industry that you were working in, or market conditions led to XYZ that caused something 2-3 years ago in your accounts, be open and honest with it. Most investors will give you credit for that, and they will walk with you, talk you through it. We've all been there. The cost of doing business is sometimes things go wrong. So just be open and honest, and that will stop you from losing the deal. The only time I would say things would go wrong is if somebody said something that was factually incorrect. It came up in DD, and then we've got a whole legal kind of worms to deal with.
Thank you, Taz. And this wouldn't be a global panel if we never had global insights. Manesh, we'd love to hear your perspective from China.
China is a wild, wild west when it comes to this kind of market. So sadly, I have to say that in China, deals can go sour even after the dotted line has been signed. And you got to be really careful with what you're dealing with. The due diligence process, not as strong as everywhere else. They don't value due diligence as much as relationships. So if your relationship is strong, most of the times you'll be able to go through with the deal. Due diligence may or may not mean much. The other factor that affects Chinese decision makings, and this you can see with even big deals from the Alibabas, the Wandas, and the Huaweis, which failed or which wouldn't go through, the interference from the Chinese Communist Party. And the government can decide a lot of factors by which they might shut off a complete country or a complete sector. And you got to be careful of what is happening there. And this can happen overnight. Sometimes you have no control, even if you've done all of your studies. So China is a little strange in this sector.
Thank you, Manesh. Some fantastic insights being shared today. I think our community just keeps learning from the best. And so thank you to all of you for these insights. Now, I know we can't let you go without asking each of you this question. So we're going to go around the panel. We'd love to hear each of your perspectives, starting with our friend from Silicon Valley. Carl, what excites you as far as investments go in 2017? And if you don't want to answer that one, or you do, what industries are ripe for disruption?
I'll give you two perspectives. We're looking at the Silicon Valley from Southeast Asian perspective. In Southeast Asia, right now, fintech is very exciting. There's a lot of transitions from people using cash in a very different way online. But in Silicon Valley, what's interesting right now, there's a proliferation of artificial intelligence, and that's just a new means or method of presenting a lot of different service companies. Automation for automotives has been quite interesting. We saw a lot of exits in that space. There is actually quite a bit done in biotech. Recently, you saw everything from Elon Musk's TransLink to connecting the body to just different various ways of altering or changing or have better performing bodies. And then at the same time, we have been looking quite a bit at space tech, actually. The industrialization of satellites, the privatization of the industry has allowed a lot of different interest groups jumping in to understand how they can utilize space as a new method for just doing a lot of different things, whether it's maritime services or investing, hedging, and so on. So that's what's happening in Silicon Valley, and a little bit on what we're looking at for Southeast Asia.
Thank you, Carl, and to all our entrepreneurs. These insights are worth gold, so I suggest you make notes of them. Manesh, what excites you as far as investments go in 2017, and what industries are ripe for disruption?
So from our perspective, just because of the kind of investors we deal with, for us, we're very interested in the sectors of electronics, hardware-related sectors, hardware manufacturing-related sectors, basically in electronics, auto, now the fashion industry, and the tools and machinery industry. Most of our investors come from this background. They have decades of experience in this, and they're looking to get out of China pretty aggressively. One, because of the cost of goods being high. Second, no access to brands. They don't have brands. These are all OEM, ODM manufacturers, and they wanted to get out. And the third part is that they need to diversify and they need to get into newer markets. So there is lots of opportunities in these areas for us.
Thank you, Manesh. Dharminder, let's hear it from India.
Yeah, so actually in India, if you see, there are currently the ongoing investments are mostly in fintech and in payment. And I think some in also in hotel industry, e-commerce. So e-commerce, when I say it, that covers most of the thing. But now we have lots of emerging trend in artificial intelligence, machine learning, and enterprise software. So there are a lot of companies recently we have come up where they have been building very niche product in the market in artificial intelligence, and there are lots of funds which are made a specific investment in AI kind of company. So most of the upcoming entrepreneurs, I think they are building product in those areas, and also investment is happening in that space, and it is going to grow.
Thank you so much, Harpreet. I know you're up to some very interesting stuff. What excites you and what's ripe for disruption?
So yeah, I come from healthcare background, so artificial intelligence will remain a common theme. We do see, specifically being in India, affordable and accessible healthcare. It's a tough problem, and artificial intelligence, along with electronics, IoT, and cloud computing, is the way to go. So I think a lot. So we are seeing money coming to us in the healthcare domain. I see a lot will happen more in this year.
Thank you, Harpreet. Tez, what's it all about in the UK?
I think we mimic what's going on the other side of the pond. I think in addition to all the vertices mentioned, health tech was big last year, and it's coming through. Fintech, certainly, UK is one of the capitals of producing some of the finest fintech startups in the world. The other one is IoT and convergence with AI. That's a very interesting space. And eco, green, clean tech. That's still flavor of the month, because ultimately the whole world needs energy, and anybody who can find better ways of creating clean, green energy, it's a win-win for us.
Thank you, Tez. Now we're going to ask our panelists to please prepare a tweet piece of advice that we can all go ahead and apply to our businesses, because we want to learn from the best and we all want to be unicorns. In the meantime, thank you to everyone for this truly amazing session. Just to keep you posted on our upcoming sessions with some of the world's best joining us again as panelists. This coming Wednesday, we have an awesome session planned for you. It's titled, How Do You Really Know If the Market is Ready for Your Product or Service? Definitely one you don't want to miss. Remember to keep us up to date on all your progress and exciting news. We'd love to highlight your success. You can always drop us an email to inspireme@onlinefiresidechat.com. You can find me as well as all our VIP guests on LinkedIn, as well as our champions. I know they'd love to hear from you. So don't forget, if you enjoyed the session, you feel there are other entrepreneurs around the globe that could benefit, feel free to share the invite. We want to get to our 100-country goal in the next few months, and with your help, we know we can get it right. So now the moment you all want to make sure to get your pen and paper out, let's go around our panel and ask our experts to give us their tweet piece of advice. Dharminder, please give us your tweet piece of advice.
Yeah, so my first advice and only advice is build the basic very strongly. Build the basic, work on the basic, spend time. Don't go to investor and at the beginning. unless until you have validated your idea, you have made some progress, you have done all your homework. I think that is the basic thing to build any company you want to build.
Very, very, very good insights. Strong foundations are the way to go. Taz, please give us your tweet piece of advice.
I heard this a couple of years back. It's from Gillian Michaels, and I absolutely love this this bit of advice. Essentially, it's be comfortable being uncomfortable.
That is a magnificent quote. Definitely worth writing down, everyone. Manesh, please inspire us.
My simple advice is do the due diligence on your investor and get a strategic investor.
Said like a true, very, very, very committed investor. Thank you, Manesh. Kyle, please give us your tweet piece of advice.
I would just say, stay focused on the product, be passionate about the product, and then stay hungry.
Great advice. Thank you, Kyle. And Harpreet, please give us your tweet piece of advice.
I will actually, ditto to what Carl said. Stay focused towards your product, and keep going to investor, keep going to key opinion leaders, keep going to your customers, and keep going to them all together.
Fantastic insights. Absolutely brilliant insights. From my perspective, I'd like to make sure you all are grateful for everything that you have. Keep remembering how privileged you are to be an entrepreneur, to have people such as these extraordinary business leaders joining us, to have friends and family supporting us. We're going through challenging times around the world, politically and economically. This is a privilege, so be grateful and live a life of gratitude. Thank you to everyone for an absolutely amazing session once again. Everybody, make sure to join us on Wednesday. On the count of 3, 2, 1, I'm going to ask our experts to shout bye. So 3, 2, 1. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
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 Bye, everyone. Keep hustling. Never give up. Bye, guys. See you on Wednesday.
Bye.